As promised, I'm gonna put the tutorial for how to put this pillowcase together. The first thing you need to do, the material that you had in your bag or the material that I cut, there are two sides that match on the material. The short material, the solid colored material, and the print material. There's a side that matches. Match it up with the right side of the print on the showing, and you're going to lay it down and pin it. You're going to match all the corners up, make sure all the corners match, and then pin. Okay, make sure that your fabric on the bottom matches up perfectly with the fabric on the top. So you're trying to make sure that it matches up so that when you sew it, it doesn't try to, you don't end up having any holes. Because if it doesn't match up correctly, you might have a seam that's a little too close and it won't match up correctly, and then you might miss a spot. Your sewing will skip or something like that. So just kind of check it, make sure that it's all lining up correctly. Get it pinned all the way down. And you don't need a whole lot of pins. As you see, I don't have too many. I just need to make sure I hold it in place. Okay, and then you're going to sew this all the way down where you pinned it, all the way to the bottom. Okay, so we're getting ready to sew. We put our needle down first. Remember, turn your wheel toward you until the needle goes into the fabric. And make sure the fabric stays lined up against the left side or the right side of your foot so that your sewing is nice and straight. We go forward a few steps and then back. And your back is a little lever on the side over here, as you guys already figured out, I'm sure. And then as you're sewing, you might need to make adjustments and stop for a second. Adjust your fabric. And don't force it through. Just let your machine pull it through. You're just there to guide the fabric. It needs to be adjusted just a little bit. Make sure your needle's in it before you start adjusting. When you're doing a row this long, sometimes you have to make adjustments. You have to kind of check it, make sure nothing's underneath it, make sure it's going straight, make sure that you're staying along this edge. And you have to keep your eyes on it, because if you take your eyes off of it, you're going to get off. So make sure you're watching it very closely. Close about to the end. We get to the end, and then we back stitch a couple times, and then we go forward to the end. Okay, once you have it all the way sewn together, that the solid material and the print material is all sewed together, go ahead and pull this, tug this a little bit, and then iron your material toward the solid material. And I think I told everybody the other day to iron it toward the print, but it really doesn't matter which way you iron it. I'm going to iron this one toward the solid and just kind of tug this right here so that it's nice and flat on the other side, and do that all the way down. Okay, so once you have that all the way down, flip it over and do it again. But just make sure you iron from here to here. If you folded it toward the solid, if you folded it toward the pattern, iron it from this way to this way. But just kind of let the iron over it, press it really nice and hard. And that makes sure you don't have any weird puckers or anything on this side when you get ready to sew it together. You can see how it got kind of a little bit folded right there. Just kind of making sure that it's as flat as it can be. Just press the iron real good. And then you're going to flip it back over, and we're going to make a little 1/4 inch seam right here. We're just going to fold this over just a little bit. And you can use your finger to measure. So like just a little bit. And iron it down. And then just follow your fingers with the iron. Fold it over, iron a little bit, fold it over, iron a little bit. And pay attention that it looks like it's about the same all the way down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just that it's just pretty close. You know, just make sure that it's not doing this or something. Just a little teensy bit, just the length of your thumbnail or the length of your fingernail. However you're folding it.
I'm breathing.
Shh. And of course Nolan's rattling. There we go. Now we've got us a nice little hemline, and this makes it to where you won't have any this makes it to where you won't have any like raw edges or a lot of thread hanging off if you when you wash it. Okay, then you're gonna, once you get that little edge, you're gonna fold this over until you meet that other seam, and you want to cover that up. Just cover it up kind of nice, kind of match the corners, make sure that your corners are matching to the fabric. And then you're going to put pins in. Just kind of pin it right there. And once we get it all the way pinned down, we're going to sew it again. But we want to get it pinned down first. And probably the best thing to do is to just put one pin in here, smooth it out to the other end, make sure that end is matching up, and then iron the edge of your pillowcase, because this is going to be the outer edge of your pillowcase. Okay, so now it is all pinned all the way across, and I'm going to sew it right here, right along this edge, just to get that edge sewn in. And this time, you're not lining it up with the sewing machine foot. You're kind of lining it up on the inside of the sewing machine foot. But just like where it's just as close to this edge as you can get it. Because we're making a nice little clean hemline. And then we got a back stitch. Stop. Make a little adjustment. Because this is so long that you want to make adjustments as you go. And you might want to do it slower than I'm doing it. I'm doing it kind of fast. Just so that you don't let it get away from you or anything. Just kind of do it kind of slow. Remember, don't force it through. You're just there to guide the fabric and keep it flat. You're doing your job to keep this flat on both sides. get to the edge, and then I do my back stitching. Always back stitch, because if you don't back stitch, it's going to come unraveled. It won't tie a knot. Okay, once you get all the pins out, then you're going to hold it up and you're going to fold it in half with the solid side on the top. And now it's starting to look like a pillowcase. So we're going to pin this along the L, right here, along the bottom and this side that's open. Match up your corners. And then lay it on a nice flat surface again and start pinning, and just pin it all the way around the L. Okay, now that it's all pinned, the L is all pinned, we're gonna sew it together, all this open space, all the way till we get to here. So I'm gonna put this in here. And hopefully I've got enough bobbin. Put our needle down. And once again, we're right along the edge. We're watching the edge of our foot, making sure that it stays lined up with the edge of the foot. Or as close as we can get. If we need to make some adjustments, make a couple of adjustments. Remember, don't force it through. Just let the machine do the walking. Okay, when you get close to the end, you know that you have to stop and pivot. So you put your needle down, lift your foot, and turn the fabric. And then put your foot back down. And then we're going to sew all the way along this edge until we get to the end. Okay, so once you start getting close to this, you're going to need to be careful that this doesn't get pinched up and kind of fold over like that. So just watch it real close and put your finger here until it gets under your foot, because you're going to be sewing through 4 layers here. So you got to be real careful, and you might want to take the pin out that you had pinning at the edge. And then it's just going to walk along here. Until you get to the very, very end, of course. And you're back stitching again. And you're forward stitching. And then once you finish that, you're going to take out all of your pins. And you'll snip all your excess threads that are just kind of on the edges of everything. And then you are finished. And you have a finished pillowcase.